the very last day of the month. Well, anyways, though, this is Eagles 102.3 FM, and like I usually do, I'd greet you in the language that you understand. Inakwana ekaro, ndewono, mesiere, and finally, of course, Unago 2.3 FM Abuja. Keep in mind, we give you a radio experience that you can count on anytime, any day. It is 1 minute gone past the hour of 7 on the AM side, and what is the Pages all about? Just in case you're hearing my voice for the first time, or probably hearing about the Pages on this frequency modulation, well, the Pages allows for you to get in the wind of what's going on in Nigeria, where and how, good question, via the very platform or the front pages of Nigerian newspapers, and of course that way you get informed. And guess what, in the course of reeling out the headlines to your eardrums via this platform, you also get to react to whichever of the headlines jumps at you or pops at you, or you find interesting, or an headline that tickles your fancy. And as you do so, also keep in mind the fact that you are not the only person who is giving your thoughts on the headlines, so you might want to keep it short and simple, right? But that being said, it is also important for you to note that we're not here to attack person, and leave it be at that. But then, just before we jump into the headlines proper, let me also let you in on some things that you need to know today. Now, you should know that the President, Bola Ahmed Tinubu, only yesterday had expressed very deep displeasure over the killing of army soldiers and officers on a peace mission in a Delta State community, describing it as a direct affront to the nation. Now, the military, which expressed indignation, was ordered by the president to fish out the killers and bring all of them to book. And the federal government as well is seeking to raise 450 billion naira from the investing public in a new debt issuance aimed at bridging the government's deficit and deepening the domestic capital market. So this was learned only last night, that the Debt Management Office, that's the DMO, which oversees the issuance of management of Nigeria's sovereign debt, will today conduct a primary market auction, that is the PMA, for 3 issuances through which it aims to raise the funds. But then let's also take you a little bit to the international scene and let you in on the fact that the sitting Russian president, has staged a comeback as he secured another 6-year term as Russian president. I'm talking about none other person but Vladimir Putin, right? So another 6 years. The exit polls showed on Sunday that paved way for the hardline former spy to become the longest serving Russian leader in more than 200 years, right? But then bringing us back home, Governor Chukwuma Soludo of Anambra State has said he is yet to receive any salaries since he assumed office 2 years ago. So Soludo disclosed this yesterday in Awka, the state capital, during the celebration of his 2 years of anniversary of his administration. Now let's talk a little bit about human rights, right? Just adding his voice to the issue of soldiers and officers of the Nigerian military who met a very gruesome murder or death somewhere in Delta State. Human rights lawyer Femi Falonas, who's a senior advocate of Nigeria, had only yesterday condemned the destruction of Okwama community in Delta State due to the killing of soldiers. Now, in a statement he personally signed, Falana called for an end to attacks on innocent citizens. He also went on to saying collective punishment is a serious offense under domestic and international law, right? And that's based on reports that that the communities have been raised by the military as some sort of reprisal attack. But then the senators warned the executive against increasing the budget size through a supplementary budget, and they've also gone on to advise the government to use the excess savings that are expected to be made from the recent depreciation of the naira to fund the deficit. Now, this came against the backdrop of the depreciation of local currency against the United States dollar from 900 naira to over 1,500 naira per dollar, following a series of moves by the Central Bank of Nigeria to attempt a unification of the parallel and official market exchange rates of the naira. But then something else is going on somewhere in, I think, Ijebu-Ode, right? Okay, so is it Ogun State, if I'm not mistaken? So a Chinese national identified simply as Yepspin is currently on the run after allegedly using an electric shocker on one of his father's employees, known as Kelvin Godwin, at a timber factory in Ijebu-Ode. Now, it was also learned that the incident occurred at a timber forest on the Ijebu-Ode-Owa Express Road. That was just last week, Tuesday. Well then, let's also bring to your eardrums the fact that the 8 lawmakers suspended by the Zamfara State House of Assembly on Sunday said they have been hounded out of the state by political thugs for exposing the increasing wave of insecurity in the state. Now, they also said that the House has written to them to return to their official vehicles to return their official vehicles to the clerk. Well, the Jigawa State Police Command has confirmed the death of about 3 students in a very, very tragic, accident on the Jahon Kiawa Road in the state. Now, the command's public relations officer, Lawan Adam, confirmed the incident in a statement it issued to newsmen on Sunday. And finally, operatives of the National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, that's talking about the NDLEA, they have arrested a 20-year-old hairstylist, Josephine Odunu, and a dispatcher rider, Adesimi Ikoro, who's about 30 years old, for selling and distributing illicit drug-laced chin-chin to students at social parties in Yanagwa, Bayelsa State. Now, the spokesman of the NDLEA, Femi Babafemi, said this in a statement on Sunday. That being said, we have given you some heads up as to what is going on, but this time let us jump into the dailies proper. Now, getting on to the dailies, we have the Vanguard, the Nation, the Daily Trust, the Punch newspaper, and of course this is all we're going to be bringing to your eardrums today. Okay, so let's get on. Let's start off with the very first one right here. That would be the Vanguard newspaper. So the Vanguard newspaper, it has a big story: Delta killings, troops lay siege to Okwama, raise more houses. You'd find that story on page 5, but it's got a couple of writers to it. Okay, so the first writer, outrage trails murder of soldiers. Second writer, military deploys armored vehicles to Bomadi Creeks. Another writer to that, have authorized military to fish out perpetrators. Tinubu, it's barbaric, unacceptable. Peter Obi has got that to say, and Governor Obovori says it's despicable and totally unacceptable. Group urges, okay, that's Pendef saying that. Officer sacrifices shall not be in vain. Northern senators tell CDS. Urhobo group urges probe. Ijo youths condemn killings. All right, like I said, it's a big story on the Vanguard newspaper's front page. Page 5 has got that story, taking you to yet another story. Lagos residents storm food marts amid complaints. 28 Page 28 has got who is saying that. Governor Mba is saying that. Page 34 has got that story. Now let's bring this one to you. It's more like an editorial. You might want to go, find it interesting and take a read on it. How federal government funds petrol subsidy through crude sales proceeds. Right now, let's bring this one to you. Ondo 2024 APC leaders kick against commercialization of Guber Primary. You'd find that story on page 10 of the Vanguard newspaper. Nigeria tightens grip on second spot in medals table. For you sports lovers, get on to page 39 of the Nigerian Tribune, of the Vanguard newspaper, I beg your pardon, and you'd find that story. Now, let's get on to the top of the Vanguard newspaper, just above the Vanguard newspaper banner. This one right here says, insecurity hampering food security. Catholic bishops, farmers raise alarm. Page 8 has got that story. Now get on to page 28. Edo Guber, APC to unveil deputy governor candidate today, and this is going to be the last one that will be taken with the Vanguard newspaper. Why it's difficult to market Nigeria globally, and that is coming from a former governor of Akwa Ibom State, Obong Atta, Victor Atta. You'd find that one on page 9 of the Vanguard newspaper. Moving on, let's get on to the Nation newspaper. Big story: tension in Delta over killing of 4 officers, 18 soldiers. Okay, tension in Delta over killing of 4 officers, 18 soldiers. And it's got a couple of writers. One of which is Army Task Force recovers 14 mutilated bodies from river. Another writer, Lieutenant Colonel, 2 majors, captain among victims. And the last writer, DHQ, condemns killing, demands arrests of culprits. Okay, so let's get on to just above the Nation newspaper banner. This one says, NLC Abure leadership fights dirty over Labour Party. Let's get on to it again. NLC Abure leadership fights dirty over Labour Party, and you'd find that story on page 6 of the Nation. It's got 2 writers to it. The first writer proposed secret convention tears party apart. The second writer, OB supporters say Abure acting like sole administrator. And getting on to the base right here of the Nation newspaper, anxiety over ex-Oyo NURTW leader Tokyo's health. All right, and page 8 has got that story. Now let me take you to page 7. Obasanjo and Yoku, others for dialogue on Nigeria's future. Page 7 has got that one. And finally, with the Nation newspaper, PDP kicks as gunmen kidnap Edo chair at Ziegbemi. Page 4 has got that story. Now let's move away from the Nation newspaper. But while we are moving away from the Nation newspaper, let us let you in on the fact that this is Eagles 102.3 FM Abuja. We give you a radio experience that you can count on anytime, any day, and it is justifiably so. But then you can as well be a part of this particular segment of the Eagles Morning Rise show right here. And how can you do that, right? All you have to do is pay some attention to the headlines. Whichever one jumps at you and you wish to react to, you can do so via the studio line 0907 353 0044 or 0908 766 8888, and the WhatsApp portal number where you can send your WhatsApp message, your messages, or even voice notes to is 0907 0909 705 4450. Let me call that one again so that there's no mistaken. 0909 705 4450. Now we just moved away, getting on to the Daily Trust newspaper. With the Daily Trust newspaper, the big story: budget padding. Nigerians angry with lawmakers. Budget padding. Nigerians angry with lawmakers. Got a couple of writers to it, about 4 writers precisely. Let's go take it. First writer, ex-legislators slam Senate. Second writer, I got 1 billion naira for constituency projects. Senator Nwoko has got that one to say. And a third to that would be Nigeria operating a faulty budgeting system. And lastly, Serap CSO's Don's demand investigation. Where do you find that story? You find the story on pages 3 and 4 of the Daily Trust. Just at the base of the Daily Trust newspaper front page, you got this one. It says, Tinubu to CDS, bring killers of military personnel to justice. It's got just one writer. Okwama community raised. Military deploys armored vehicles. You'd find that on page 35. And let's get this one to your eardrums. Disquiet in CBN as Cardoso retires Emefiele's directors. Okay, what would have informed this very move? Disquiet in CBN as Cardoso retires Emefiele's directors. Okay, so let's get you find that story where you'd find it on pages pages 23, beg your pardon, page 23, right? And then to this one right here says NSITF to spend 12 billion naira on promotion productivity, 25.6 billion naira on personnel. You'd find that story on page 12 of the Daily Trust newspaper. Then let's punch you with the Punch newspaper now. Okay, so let's get on to the story just above the Punch newspaper banner. It says federal government eyes $1 billion World Bank loans for IDPs Agric. Okay, federal government eyes $1 billion World Bank loans for IDPs Agric, and you find it on page 21. Page 9, strike. Sanu Nasu vow to ground varsities. Government feigns ignorance. Right, for some time now, Sanu and Nasu have called on the federal government, saying that there are monies that is yet to be paid to us and all of that, and we would love for you to, live up to the expectation, because the Tinubu administration had said that they'd pay, these allowances now for, the university lecturers who went on strike at some point, making, demands, from the federal government as to how they can get, the schools, universities running properly well. SANU also joined in that strike, but then it seems as though SANU and NASU have not been given anything that seems like hope at the end of a tunnel in terms of what they are also being owed. And so they're saying that they would ground varsities, and it seems as though the federal government is not just having that time right now. Okay, so page 9 has got that story, and you should look at page 22. All right, federal government plans talks with Ghana, others to protect undersea cables. All right, page 22 has got that one. Now let's bring the big story to you. I mean, the big story is not just ending. Soldiers killing. Tinubu Senate order manhunt for killers. Troops comb warring communities. You'd find that story on page 2 of the Punch newspaper. A couple of writers to it. President condemns attack, says DHQ has full authority to bring anybody responsible to justice. Second writer, Senate retired generals, others fume, demand tough actions against killers, condole with the military. Page 2 has got that story. Consumers lament POS machine shortage at Lagos discounted food markets. Find it on page 8 of the Punch news paper. And let's bring this one to you. Textile import. 7 others gulp